Tyson Fury versus Drew McIntyre. Now, this has been something that's been speculated about, talked about, rumored, reported on for a few months now, and it's now been reported that there were once plans in place to have a Tyson Fury versus Drew McIntyre WWE Championship match scheduled for an event over here in the United Kingdom between the Gypsy King and the Scottish psychopath himself. Now, WWE back in March was one of the many things affected by the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Now, most sports stopped in the initial outbreak back in March, but WWE managed to continue producing weekly television shows and pay-per-views no matter what. But of course, things have had to be altered and had to be changed throughout this year so far. One thing is many international events and deals, such as the Saudi Arabia pay-per-views that were scheduled for at least one or two a year. They got Super Showdown in February, but it doesn't look like we're going to have any Saudi show for the foreseeable future until this whole COVID-19 pandemic has been stopped. So, what about the Tyson Fury-Drew McIntyre thing? Wow, Inside the Ropes are reporting that WWE had planned for Drew McIntyre to defend his WWE Championship against the current WBC heavyweight champion boxer Tyson Fury, the undefeated Tyson Fury, on a major WWE pay-per-view scheduled in the UK. The report said, quote, multiple sources tell Inside the Ropes that WWE wanted Drew McIntyre versus Tyson Fury for the WWE Championship to headline a UK pay-per-view this year. They continued, while we don't know if this was a brand new pay-per-view or if the UK would have taken over another, we do know that WWE talked to both men about the idea. Sources say WWE was keen to capitalize on McIntyre becoming the first ever British world champion in the company's history and the hunger of the UK fan base for a big-time pay-per-view, end quote. Now, as Inside the Ropes mentioned during their report there, over here in the United Kingdom, we have been begging, we are desperate for a major pay-per-view event from WWE to happen over here. It's been so long since we've had anything of real substance in terms of pay-per-views happen over here, and there's always rumors, right, whether it's about WrestleMania or it's about SummerSlam, Wembley Arena, whatever. It's always rumored there, but it never happens. And look, the NXT did an NXT TakeOver London. I think that was back in 2015, and that's maybe the biggest event we've got over here in the UK in recent history. Of course, we've now got the NXT UK brand, and some people will say, well, that's kind of reduced the demand because you get your NXT UK takeovers and you get the NXT UK events. It's not the same. It's not the same. It never will be the same. Look, WWE, the last time they did a big pay-per-view event over here in the United Kingdom was SummerSlam in 1992 at Wembley Stadium. It's still talked about today because of obviously the main event with Bret the Hitman Hart and the British Bulldog, but it's also spoken about today because of the atmosphere. You know, you sold out Wembley Stadium, that's like 80,000 people, maybe even more, considering it was a wrestling show. The desire's here, the want's here, the hunger is here, and WWE have tried over years to try and give us some scraps over here, whether the likes of international pay-per-views like Insurrection or Rebellion, which they did at the start of, well, it was sort of late 90s, early 2000s. We had those pay-per-views, but they were internationally specific as well. They weren't like, nothing big happened on them. If there was title matches, everyone retained. It was just, that's what it was. It was an international pay-per-view, and it didn't matter. It really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Nothing of substance maybe happened on that show. Yes, you might have the European Championship change hands, or an underneath title might change hands that they would briefly mention in passing on Monday Night Raw the following week. Oh, if you missed out, Insurrection, we had a European Championship change, and then the title would change hands during that broadcast anyway, stuff like that. But essentially what these were, Insurrection and Rebellion back in the day, these were house shows with a bit of pizzazz, essentially. House shows with pyro. That's all they were. Now, Drew McIntyre has been very vocal about wanting to face Tyson Fury and wanting to have a big UK pay-per-view whilst he is the WWE champion. He said to TalkSport earlier this year, quote, this situation has affected a lot of plans. Let's just say things were looking positive, and when things are looking a bit more normal, I'll be pushing once again because we're on the right path, and it's not a case of if it will happen, it's a case of when it will happen. We've just got to roll with the punches right now, and eventually we'll get that UK pay-per-view we deserve. Now, next year, of course, I mentioned about SummerSlam 1992. Next year, it will be 30 years since SummerSlam was in the UK for that event. to me, it would be the perfect time to celebrate the anniversary. If we could get that event inside Wembley Stadium, it would be amazing. It would be absolutely amazing to celebrate the anniversary of that event and the new stadium there. It would be phenomenal. Obviously, this is very dependent on what the world looks like then. I'm not naive, and if this can't be safely done, then don't do it. I did a video the other day speaking about WrestleMania potentially in April, about 65,000 fans, which I still think is madness, and it's the case with SummerSlam here. I don't know what it's going to look like come August next year. I suspect not a lot will change. I hope a lot change, but maybe we won't be in that scenario. And if that is the case, then it's off the cards. It isn't going to happen at that period of time. But we'll have to wait and see. It would be awesome to see, but we'll have to wait and see. And it seems, according to the report by Inside the Ropes, I must mention this as well, that the match is still what WWE wants to do. And it's not, as Drew McIntyre said in the quote there with TalkSport, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's a matter of when they can do it, when it's safe to do it. However, the issue is, when it comes to that, is Tyson Fury's schedule in 2021 is very busy. He's got anticipated matches against the likes of Anthony Joshua, which some people were saying will be multiple matches. He wants to fight a couple of times in addition to that in 2021. So we'll have to wait and see. Of course, this is all speculation. I think, just looking at it though, and this is from a fan's perspective, of course, but maybe with a little bit of a business hat on here, I think it would be huge. It would be absolutely massive to have Tyson Fury, the undefeated WBC heavyweight boxing champion of the world, going up against the WWE champion. They're both British. It would be massive. It would be absolutely massive. And I've never, you can go back and watch any of the Tyson Fury videos I've done on this channel. I never have, and I never will have a problem with celebrity athletes coming in to wrestle matches. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with Drew McIntyre versus Tyson Fury. I didn't have a problem with Tyson Fury versus Braun Strowman. And the reason why I've never had any problem with anything like this is because it makes sense. It always makes sense. Tyson Fury versus Drew McIntyre makes sense in the sense that it's business. It's business, and I know these stories, and I know when anyone talks about Tyson Fury inside of a WWE ring, people get really, really angry. A couple of times I've posted tweets on social media, and people have got really, really angry of, no, we don't want Tyson Fury. We want wrestlers. We want wrestlers in the main event. How dare some boxer come in and do this and do that? And every time my response to that is, it's business. It's called business. Right now, Tyson Fury is arguably the biggest boxer in the world right now. Arguably, he is. He's an undefeated heavyweight champion of the world. People know who Tyson Fury is. People pay a lot of money to watch Tyson Fury fight. He's a draw. He's a box office draw. Tyson Fury is money. And in opposition to that, you have the first ever British WWE champion in the company's history. You've got this rabid fan base over here. Why wouldn't you capitalize on that? It's just good business. It's just good business. And I know a criticism of this video would be that my view is slightly slanted here because I am British, I don't know if you can tell, and I live in England. But in fairness, I do think that gives me some position to tell you how gigantic of an event this would be over here. It would be massive. It would break all kinds of professional wrestling records over here. It would do a massive gate at Wembley Stadium. It would be huge. It would be absolutely huge. And, first of all, I think even backtracking a little bit here, if the UK just got one pay-per-view a year here live, they would go crazy. I mean, they really would. And as I mentioned earlier on, we spoke about Insurrection and Rebellion. I don't mean those kind of pay-per-views. I don't mean Rebellion or Capital Carnage or anything like that. I mean if over here in the UK we got a SummerSlam or we got a WrestleMania or, to be honest, even a Payback, this country would lose their damn minds. They really would. It would sell out instantly and fans would be lining up to get those tickets. I mentioned it earlier. We haven't had a big event over here since SummerSlam 1992. So let's just, calm that down a little bit because we are desperate. We are desperate over here. And for me, and I think this is shared with a lot of people, a lot of fans over here in the UK, what's frustrated people the most over the years is every time the discussion of having a big UK live pay-per-view come up, whether it is SummerSlam or WrestleMania or whatever, the excuses we've been told by WWE, Britain has the best wrestling fans in the world, great atmosphere, great people, etc., etc. But it's the time difference. It's the time difference. You're 5 hours behind, 5 hours ahead, rather, of the East Coast and 7 of the West Coast. It's the time difference. We just can't do it. We can't do a SummerSlam because of the time difference. We can't do a WrestleMania in the UK because of the time difference. We'd have to start in the afternoon in America, and we just can't do that. People might be out. People might be busy. And for years, they used that excuse, WWE did, and every UK fan's response to that was, wow, that sucks. I'm not necessarily sure that's the real truth. That sucks, but okay, I understand your rationale. And then over the last few years, we've seen shows in Saudi Arabia and in Australia where there's a time difference. And the show in the United States has to start in the afternoon, which is the exact same thing that would happen over here for a UK pay-per-view. So that excuse of, wow, the time difference is difficult, this and that, it's just BS. It's just not true. It's just BS. In reality, the real reason, the real rationale is nobody's paying us enough to do a UK pay-per-view. That's the real thing. Because we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years, WWE has a price. Ask the Saudis. Ask Australia. Give them the money that they want and they'll put an event on. They don't care about that US audience. They really don't. If you give them the money, they really don't care. And it's been shown by these Saudi pay-per-views and that Australia pay-per-view. Now, I know I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there, but that's always annoyed me so much. The whole, the time difference thing, it's just BS. It's always been BS. Always been BS. And it's a crime. The Impact Wrestling back in 2013 and 2014, right, when it was in turmoil, could come over here to the UK, they'd sell out arenas. They'd sell out arenas. This is a time where you couldn't even get, 1,000 fans in an arena in the United States to watch Impact Wrestling. You'd come over here to the UK, they'd sell out 10, 15,000 arenas. The demand has always been there. Always been there. So that's Impact Wrestling, let alone a stadium show for a pay-per-view. Honestly, they could do 100,000 people. Easy. I mean, obviously, current climate, I know we're talking in a perfect world here, but it boggles my mind. It absolutely boggles my mind. So going back to the original point here, I really don't have a problem with a potential Tyson Fury versus Drew McIntyre match. Would the match be any good? Probably not. And I don't think in the grand scheme of things it really matters. It's a spectacle. It is a show at the end of the day. Now, they spoke about it being for the WWE Championship. Tyson Fury isn't going to become the WWE Champion. Don't worry about that. I don't know if he would, flat back have Drew McIntyre pin him 1, 2, 3. I mean, part of Tyson Fury's gimmick as a boxer is that he is undefeated. If you're an undefeated heavyweight boxing champion, I doubt you're going to have Drew McIntyre pin you. I think we might see a similar scenario that we saw at Crown Jewel with Tyson Fury versus Braun Strowman. It's a count-out disqualification, and I know that is a bit of a BS finish, but you do have to work within the parameters that you're given there. I mean, maybe Tyson Fury would be willing to do the 1, 2, 3. I just don't know. Can you really see an undefeated heavyweight boxing champion being willing to be beat so easily by that old fake wrestling? I don't know. I just think there'll be some people in his camp and some people in his PR and all of that kind of stuff that would be like, you know what, Tyson, that's maybe not the best idea to take the Claymore and do the 1, 2, 3. Not that, as I said, Tyson Fury isn't going to become WWE champion. I would be flabbergasted if that ever happened. My point being is that it's all about the event. It's all about money. It's always about money with WWE, and this is good money. It's good business. As I mentioned, the match wouldn't be any good. It'd probably suck, but as a spectacle, it could be huge. It could be absolutely huge. So I hope it happens. I do think eventually it will happen. As the report stated there of Inside the Ropes, that it just feels inevitable. It really does feel inevitable that they're planning this. Drew McIntyre, even though this is his first WWE Championship reign, regardless of if and when he loses it, it won't be his last. He'll have the belt again. So whether it's a case of maybe next year or the year after, I think it will happen. Tyson Fury also has a very good relationship with the WWE. Prior to COVID, he was meant to be part of WrestleMania 36 earlier this year. We don't know what that role is. Maybe he would have been in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal or something like that. That was planned, but like this whole thing and like 2020, just in a nutshell, plans change because of the pandemic. But I hope it happens, and I do think it will happen eventually. It's just a case of when the world is safe, and if and when the world goes back to normal and we can start living life normally again. But it's just another thing that's been delayed or cancelled due to 2020 this year. That's it. But I hope it will happen, and it would do fantastic business if it does, if and when it does happen. It really would. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on a potential Tyson Fury versus Drew McIntyre WWE Championship match? Is it something you want to see? Is it something you're interested in? If you're not a fan from the UK like me and you're from the United States or another country, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys and talking the wrestling with you here on this channel. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button as well. Really just help us out here on YouTube. Go up the ranking and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribers. We're about 50 subscribers away from 1,000, so if you haven't already, please do subscribe and we can hit that magic 1,000 subscriber mark. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak with you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.